All right. Who remembers, who can think of some of the things you did wrong as a kid that you got in trouble for? I'll give you a second to think about some of the stupid stuff you did as a kid. It's funny that my parents are here on the day I'm talking about all the stupid crap I did as a kid. Let's see, some of my highlights of rebellion as a child. When I was in kindergarten, I decided I was going to go home with a friend from school. She and I just made a deal that I was going to go home with her. And so I just got on the bus with her and went to her babysitter's house. And Mom and Dad are waiting and the bus doesn't come and they're like, what's happening? So a couple hours after being at the babysitter's, my dad shows up and he doesn't talk to me the whole way home and I know I am in trouble. So this is what my parents did. They first sent me to my room, and as an adult I look back and this is probably their chance to like, get it together, don't kill her. And discuss how we're going to handle this. So I had to go to my room. And then I came out, and they said, all right, let's talk about what you did. You really scared us by not coming home, and they explained what I had done wrong and why that was a bad thing. And then I had to come up with my own punishment. So here I am at 5, trying to figure out okay, what's a bad enough punishment that they'll accept it, but it's not so hard on me? What is least hard punishment I could come up with that they will accept, So that was the first one I really remember. The first time I got grounded was the first day of summer break. And I was like, it's summer break. I'm going to sit on this couch all day. I'm just going to watch TV and relax because I had a hard year. And my dad comes in the living room. He's like, hey, Steph, come outside. I need your help for a minute. And I walk out. He's got the tractor there ready for me to get on the tractor and do something. I'm like, oh. Like a teenager, Oh, I got grounded for that. And then I told my friends, I got grounded for rolling my eyes. Another time I got grounded, and I deserve this one. I was probably 14-ish, which would have made my brother 7, 8-ish. My friend called me up, and she's like, hey, my mom's taking me to the mall. You want to go? I said, yeah, but my mom's not home yet. And my friend's like, yeah, but we want to go now. And I'm like, my mom will be home in half an hour. It'll be fine. So I left my brother, who was 7 or 8, all by himself. I left the house a mess. I hadn't cleaned up the house. I got grounded for that one. And Mom had to be late that day, so Chris was home for 2 hours by himself. He finally went across the street to the neighbors who were not really our friends. So for him to go there, he had to be really scared. He went across the street, so I got in big trouble for that one. Kids get in trouble all the time. It is the very nature of being a child. They are rebels. They are constantly pushing the battles. Those of you who have had or been around or been a child know that we push. As a teacher, kids are constantly pushing. I am constantly correcting. I was watching one of those videos. It was teacher video. And this teacher's like, Johnny, don't tell me the story that's random and has nothing to do with this topic. Susie, stop singing while I'm trying to teach class. John, he's pointing to all the things that kids do in class to push your buttons as a teacher. Constantly pushing the buttons. And you're constantly course correcting kids all the time. And so sometimes it's difficult to know, what's the best way to discipline? Certain things work better for other kids. For me, grounding was pretty sufficient. I remember one time I got a C once. And I was told that was not acceptable. And I was told if I got another C, I would not talk on the phone all summer. And I was like, yes, sir. And by God, I got an A or a B in that class the rest of the year because for me, punishment of not being able to talk on the phone for a whole summer would have been the end of the world. And for some kids, it's grounding. For some kids, it's taking things away. For some kids, it's making them do work. For some kids, a good SWAT is helpful. Whether you agree with or don't agree with a good SWAT here and there, when I was really little, Mom would bend me over the couch and get the wooden spoon out. And I don't even think she ever had to hit me. I'd be like, I'm sorry. But every kid has different punishments that work and don't work for them. And it's hard to know sometimes, what is the right? And a lot of people nowadays say, oh, you should never swat a kid, you should never hit a kid. And so I'm like, what is the right way? Like, what is the right way to discipline? Why are we disciplined? So then, of course, when I have a question, I go to the Bible. What does the Bible have to say about it? So in the book of Proverbs, so in the Hebrew Bible, we call it the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, there are 3 books that are called the wisdom books. And the book of Proverbs was predominantly written by this guy named Solomon. And Solomon asked, like God said to Solomon, what do you want? And Solomon says, I want to be the smartest man in the world. Done. He got his wish. So this book, these advice we're getting here is written by the smartest man in the world to live. And he says, he who spares the rod hates his son, and he who loves him is careful to discipline him. Discipline is love. If you don't discipline your child, you don't actually love your child, because your child's going to grow up and have a lot of problems. Like, you see parents who don't ever discipline their kids, and I'm like, your child is going to have major problems when they get out in the real world, because in the real world, they have to be disciplined. And if you don't discipline them now when they're little, when they get older, they're going to have a lot of issues. You ever see that sign on Facebook? It says something like, kids with bad sportsmanship grow up to be unemployable adults. It's something to that effect. Like, if you don't discipline them as kids, they grow up to be unemployable adults. And God is saying the same thing here. Love means disciplining your child. Here's some other ones. Discipline your child, and he and she will give you delight in your heart. Kids want to be disciplined. There are kids who, they push the buttons because they want their parents to do something about it. Silly example. Mom and dad have his dog, and when he wants attention, he goes and gets something he's not supposed to have because he wants attention. He's doing it so that he gets attention from them. And kids do the same thing. They'll act out because they want their parents to notice and pay attention and do something about it. My children, listen when your father corrects you. Pay attention and learn good judgment. None of us in this room currently have children. But we are children of our Father God. And so this message is both for parents who, well, no, Steph has current children. Sorry, Steph. I'm used to you being downstairs. Some of us might be like, this is about disciplining kids, Stephanie. I don't have kids right now. I don't need to listen. But you are also a kid of the Most High God. And there are times when we feel like we're being punished or disciplined and we don't like it. And we're like, why is God doing this to me? Does he hate me? God's saying, no, I correct you because I need you to learn good judgment. We correct our kids because we need them to learn good judgment. Shepherds used to, that spare the rod, spoil the child. I think that was this one. No, where's the spare the rod, spoil the child? Is that this one? I must have missed that one. But a youngster's heart is filled with foolishness, and physical discipline drives it out. Spare the rod, spoil the child. The rod was shepherds. They had the hook and they had a rod. The shepherds didn't beat their sheep because they hated their sheep. When a sheep was bad, the shepherd didn't go to town like wailing on the sheep. But they had a rod, and when the sheep was starting to get out of line, the shepherd gave him a little tap on the butt to and then would get him back in line. The shepherd did not beat the sheep because he was mad at the sheep or to harm the sheep. The shepherd gave him a little tap to course correct them, to get the sheep to go back to the safety of the flock. I'm sure many of us, your parents, allowed you to get burned on the stove once so that you would learn stoves are dangerous. Your parents didn't allow you to get burnt because they wanted you to be harmed. They knew that that's the best lesson. Like, I love when Molly talked about when her kids were biting, she bit her kids. Like, not hard, but enough so that they'd be like, oh, this hurts. So they could see that the foolishness of biting other kids is dangerous when you're 2, like you can't reason with a 2-year-old. But if you bite them, they're like, oh, this is what I'm doing to someone else, and they course correct. Punishment is about course correction. It's not about harm. So I know some people who are against physical punishment, like sometimes physical punishment helps course correct, but it should never be done in anger. Punishment, physical punishment, should never be done out of anger. Sit the child down, explain what they've done, and say, now because you did this, this will be your punishment. And God did this. In the Hebrew Bible, we see the way he would say, you guys messed up, and now because you did this, this is going to be your punishment. And then once they served their punishment, as long as they didn't keep messing up, he's like, okay, we're good now. So here's an example. Oh no, there it is. So you guys have heard of this guy named Moses, right? Moses had a sister and a brother. Her sister was Miriam, his brother was Aaron. And they're out in the desert, and God said that Moses was the leader. Moses was supposed to be the one in charge. And Miriam and Aaron were standing around one day, and they began to talk against Moses, complaining basically about his leadership. So they're having a little gossip session about Moses and how he should be doing this, and I can't believe he's doing this. And there, you know how people get. Well, God heard it, because God always hears, and he was mad. Now, God at the time of this, they were in the desert, and so he was physically there, and during the day he was a pillar of smoke, and at night he was a pillar of fire, so that the Israelites could see that he was in their presence all the time, and so the enemies could see, oh, they've got God in their presence, we better not mess with them. And so whenever that pillar moved, they all packed up camp, and they moved with it. So God was mad against them, and so he left them. The pillar just went up and went away because he was mad because Miriam and Aaron had rebelled and sinned and messed up. When the cloud lifted from the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. It became white as snow. Aaron turned toward her, saw that she had this defiling skin disease, and said to Moses, please, I ask you not to hold the sin that we have so foolishly committed. Do not let her be like a stillborn infant coming from its mother's womb with half its flesh eaten away. And Moses cried out to the Lord, please, God, heal her. So God was removing his protection from Miriam by removing his presence. And when he removed his protection, she was afflicted by leprosy. And they were like, oh man, we messed up. Sometimes God says, I'm not going to harm you. I'm just going to withdraw my protection from you because you're being a rebel. And he lets whatever natural consequence was going to come to you. Because he's like, I'm not going to be around you when you're messing up like that. God also recognized that Moses was the one appointed to be the leader. So what happens if Mary and Aaron start getting a little following of people who all want to sit and complain about Moses and all start agreeing with Aaron and Miriam that Moses is a bad leader? Moses isn't going to be able to lead. We are supposed to honor our leaders and honor our parents. And when we dishonor them by talking bad about them and judging them, God's like, no. So God is showing them, I don't approve of you guys talking about my leader who I appointed. You're judging my decision. And you are wrecking Moses' ability to lead. And so Moses, being the good older brother, said, if her father had spit in her face, would she not have been disgraced for 7 days? Confine her outside the camp for 7 days, and after that she can be brought in. So basically, God says, we're going to ground Miriam for a week. For a week, she's got to go live outside the camp. She can't be around anybody. And when she comes back in, she'll be healed, and it's forgotten. So Miriam was confined for 7 days, and the people did not move on until she was brought back. So she served her time out, and then she came back in, and she was healed, and she was fine, and it was forgotten. And I love this about God. When God disciplines you, he makes it clear, this is what you did, this is your punishment, this is your discipline, this is your course correction. Once you serve that, it's over. We're not going to talk about it. It's forgiven. It's done. Miriam didn't stay leprous for the rest of her life. She was healed because she got her disease and she got her time out, and then once that was over, we're good. And Jesus shows us this. Jesus did the same thing. Jesus was kind of a father figure to his disciples, and he was constantly course correcting them. They messed up, And he would have to course correct them. He would have to discipline them. Here's a situation. Jesus is telling them it's towards the end of his time on earth, and he's trying to prepare them because he knows what's coming. He knows he's about to be put to death. So he's telling them, I'm going to be crucified. It's going to be terrible, and then it's going to be okay. Well, Peter, I love Peter, but Peter was kind of a hothead. Peter was one of his followers. And Peter's like, heaven forbid, Lord, that's never going to happen to you. Basically, we're not going to let this happen to you, Jesus. We're not going to let you die. You can't leave us. Well, so Peter basically like, Jesus, I'm going to set you straight, Jesus. Jesus is like, no. You aren't going to set me straight. I'm going to set you straight, Peter. So Jesus turned to him and said, get away from me, Satan. Harsh words for a disciple of God. He says, you are a dangerous trap to me. You are seeing things from a human point of view, not from God's. He's saying, wait, where'd it go? Click too many times. He's saying, these ideas, Peter, are dangerous to me. Because if Peter continued on this route of saying, you're not going to do this, Jesus, you don't have to die, and trying to talk Jesus out of going to the cross, what would have happened to the rest of us? If Jesus hadn't gone to the cross, we wouldn't be here today doing this. Jesus understood that as much as the cross was going to just be awful, he had to do it. And so these ideas that he could skip it were dangerous to him. And so he is course correcting Peter and saying, Peter, we can't do Peter's plan. We got to do God's plan. And it might not make sense to you, but this is what I have to do. And don't you go trying to tell me anything different. And then they went on, and I think it's right after this, Jesus says to Peter, you are going to be the rock I build my church on. This is the same conversation where Jesus says, you're going to be the rock that I build my church on. So Jesus wasn't like, that's it, Peter, you're out of the band. You can't travel with us anymore. He course corrected him, and all was forgiven. And they moved on, and Peter continued to be one of his disciples. Discipline is about course correction. It's not about punishment. It's not about harming you for the sake of harming you. It is about getting you in alignment with God's plan. So we've been talking about this guy, Paul. Paul would start a church, and then he would move on, and he'd write them letters. And he would get reports that they were getting out of line after he would leave. And so a lot of these letters are discipline. A lot of these letters are course correction. And here's one of them. He's writing to his Hebrew people, and he says, my child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline. Don't give up when he corrects you. For the Lord disciplines those he loves. He punishes each one he accepts as his child. He's saying if you're feeling punished or disciplined, it's not because God doesn't love you. He's punishing you because he loves you. Because he's trying to bring you back into the right path. He's trying to get you to the place where you are the person he created you to be. He says, and as you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own child. And who's ever heard of a child who hasn't been disciplined by their father? For if God doesn't discipline you as he does his children, it means you're illegitimate and you're not his kid. So it's saying if you don't ever feel God's discipline in your life, then you're not really getting fathered by him. So sometimes we get convicted. We do something wrong and God convicts us and we want to be like, but I had, like kids, you call them out on something. But I had to do it. He hit me first or whatever. And God's like, we're not like a teacher. We're not talking about him. Let's talk about what you did. And sometimes we don't like that. Was it this one? Since we respect our earthly fathers who discipline us, won't we submit even more to our Father? We need to understand that our parents had to discipline us. I understand that my parents had to discipline me when I went home with somebody else. I can't just go wandering off like I did in the mall. My poor mom had to put a leash on me because I was that kid. Okay? I can't be disrespecting my dad and rolling my eyes when he asked me to do something. I can't be leaving my 7-year-old brother at home by himself. These things are not safe. They're either not safe for me, they're not safe for our family, they're not safe for my brother. I had to be disciplined in those situations. And God has to discipline us sometimes in situations. There are times when we mess up and God has to discipline us, not because he hates us, not because he's mad at us, but because he needs to course correct us. We need to stop going this way and start going this way. Like the sheep that's heading out into the wilderness where the wolves are, the shepherd gives him a little pat, get back in there, get back into the fold. He doesn't do that because he's mad at the sheep. He's doing it to protect the sheep. And repenting means turning in a new direction. So if I am sinning and I'm going in this direction towards the wolves, God's going to give me a little pat on the butt that says, go this way. And if I don't listen, he's going to give me a firmer pat on the butt to go this way. When I was a kid, my dad was like, you don't want to do it my way? We'll do it. You're going to do it my way. Like, you don't do it the first way, I'll make your life miserable. He always said to me, you want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about. I got that one a lot. Because I would be like, you can't do this. He's like, oh, really? Watch me. He was just telling me a story. I was talking about the stories. He's like, you tried, when I was a teenager, he's like, you tried saying, I've got keys to my car and you can't do anything about it. He's like, oh, really? Watch me. I'll pull out the spark plugs or whatever. Like, he's like, I will disable your car and you won't go anywhere. I don't care how many keys you got. You know, we have to be disciplined by our Heavenly Father because he loves us so that we become who we are. So we stay with the flock and we become who we were made to become. So if you're feeling discipline, I think it's this one, it says we don't like it at the time. For our earthly fathers discipline us for a few years doing their best. God's discipline is good for us so that we share in his holiness. No discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. We don't like it while it's happening. I did not like having that conversation after I went home with my friend. I did not like the conversation where I was told C's were unacceptable. But I got good grades and I went to college, and I got good grades in college. And I got scholarships because I had A's and B's. They didn't discipline me out of anger or hatred. They disciplined me because they knew what I was capable of. I was capable of A's and B's. And a C, because I don't like that teacher, was unacceptable. And so I got my little on the boot to get me back into alignment of who I'm made to be. And God does the same thing with us. So those of you who are parents, remember discipline is about, feel I have to stare at Stephanie because she's the only one with children right now. Discipline is about being consistent, helping your children become who they are really made to be. It is not about punishment. It's not about anger or hatred. It's about course correction. It's about getting them in line so that they can be the best of who they're supposed to be. And if you're feeling disciplined by God, there are times when we go through trials and we're like, gosh, God, are you punishing me? Like, what did I do wrong? If God is disciplining you, he'll convict you that you know what you did wrong. If you feel punished and you don't know what you've done wrong, that's not from God. Maybe you've wandered away from God. Maybe you have wandered away and he's been like, don't go that way, come here. And you're like, no, I'm going this way. And God has lifted his presence from you. If you really rebel and you're like, I'm not doing it, Lord. I'm not doing what you say. God will be like, all right, go off to the woods. There's wolves. Have fun. I'll be here. When you want to come back, I'll be right here. So this week, examine those of you who are parents or in charge of people. It could even be at your job. I mean, I've been disciplined at my job, and I have to discipline with my job all the time. I am constantly disciplining all day long, I feel like. So whatever sphere you're in, whether you are disciplining or if you feel like you're being disciplined, have a conversation with God about that. Ask God, am I disciplining out of anger or am I disciplining for course correction? And if you feel like you're being disciplined, ask God, is there something that I have rebelled against that I need to repent of and turn back? Have I ignored my little tap on the butt so much so that I have wandered into the woods? And if so, Lord, what did I do? Show me so that I can turn, so I can course correct. Show me what I've done wrong so I can say I'm sorry and I can come back into the fold where your presence and your protection is. Because God does not punish to harm you. ever. God only punishes and only disciplines for course correction. And anything beyond that isn't God. And all of God's people said, amen. If you have not said yes to Jesus, if you have not made the choice yourself to commit your life to Christ, please come down during this song.